Did you know that 3 Filipino priests, rebellious priests, were tortured and then executed in front of 40,000 Filipinos? Who were the GomBurZa and why were they killed so brutally in front of thousands of people? Let's learn more. Wait lang, if you would like to see a Tagalog version of this video, let me know in the comments below. Now back to our topic. Mabuhay or in Kapampangan luwid kayo. Welcome back to another history video. It's me, Kirby Araullo, your friendly Pinoy historian. And in this channel, I make videos about our people's history, our people's culture, and everything in between. So don't forget to like, share this video, comment down below, and subscribe. So today's video will be a short introduction to the GomBurZa. Who were they, why were they executed, and what is the legacy they left behind? This Wednesday, February 17, 2021, marked the 149th year since the brutal execution of the Filipino priests, collectively known as the GomBurZa. The GomBurZa were the Filipino priests who were tortured and then executed by the Spaniards back in February 17, 1872. And again, this was 149 years ago this week. And they were Father Mariano Gomez, Father Jacinto Zamora, and Father Jose Burgos. And the term GomBurZa is actually the combination of the first syllables of their last names. Gomez, Burgos, Zamora, GomBurZa. So, what happened was that in January of 1872, there was a brief uprising of over 200 Filipino port workers in Cavite. It is known today in history as the Cavite Mutiny. The Filipino workers were demanding fair treatment and livable wages. They were protesting against the abusive and oppressive labor conditions in the Spanish naval shipyard in Cavite. They were also protesting against the forced labor policies of the Spanish colonial government, in which Filipinos were practically slaves under Spanish colonialism. It was a system of forced labor that crippled the Filipino society and starved millions of people over the centuries. It was a system of enslavement. All the workers wanted was to be treated equally and to be paid fairly. But then, the Spaniards used this incident, this uprising, as an excuse to unleash violence against Filipinos and maintain their hold on power. In their effort to eradicate Filipino nationalism and any resistance to colonialism, the Spaniards tortured and murdered the workers and anyone who supported their protest. The Spanish colonial government under Governor General Rafael de Izquierdo also used this as an excuse to implicate the 3 priests and other notable outspoken Filipinos, or in other words, to implicate the other Filipino activists of the time. The GomBurZa were accused of being the masterminds behind the uprising despite lacking evidence. They were practically tagged as violent terrorists when all they wanted was equality. So if the priests were not really directly involved in the Cavite Mutiny, then why did the Spaniards accuse them? Why did the Spaniards torture and execute them? What did they really stand for? The GomBurZa priests were implicated mainly because they were outspoken about the issue of secularization. Secularization was a movement to practically separate the church from the state and to give Filipinos equality within the Catholic Church. During Spanish colonization, Filipino priests were oftentimes limited to being just the assistants of the Spanish friars. Secularization was a movement to fight for equal rights. It was a form of resistance against the tyrannical rule of Spain, and this threatened the established order in which the Spaniards were at the top of the pyramid, whether in church or in government or anything else in the colonial society. It was a movement to allow for more Filipino priests, and a movement against the abuses and the corruption of the Catholic Church in the Philippines. And during this time, the power of the Catholic Church in the Philippines was tremendous, and it was monopolized by the Spaniards and was used to subjugate the Filipinos. The Spaniards resented secularization because they considered Filipinos to be unfit for priesthood. They even said that the brown skin of our people and our so-called lack of education made Filipinos inferior to the white priest. And as mentioned, this movement from within the church really threatened the Spanish colonial order. It threatened their hold on power. It threatened their grip over the Filipinos. The GomBurZa priests were targeted by the colonial government for their outspoken stand on equality and the recognition of human rights. Because of this, they were accused of sedition and treason. It was even said that the Spaniards bribed the so-called witnesses to testify against the GomBurZa. And even though their direct involvement or guilt were never really proven, the Spaniards nevertheless still tortured and sentenced the GomBurZa priests to death. And so, on Saturday morning, February 17, 1872, the three priests, Father Mariano Gomez, Father Jacinto Zamora, and Father Jose Apolonio Burgos, were executed by garrote. A garrote was a brutal strangulation device that was used to execute people in the Spanish Empire for hundreds of years. In fact, it was still in use in Spain as late as 1974 under the fascist regime of Francisco Franco. The GomBurZa were publicly executed in Luneta, in the very same part where Jose Rizal would be executed by firing squad almost 25 years later. Their execution was a public display of Spanish cruelty. It was meant to dissuade and discourage anyone from rising up against Spain. It was meant as a warning to anyone of the brutal death they will face if they dare criticize the government. But in the end, this brutal warning to discourage Filipino uprisings against the government backfired. The brutal execution of the GomBurZa only further lit the fire of resistance that was already burning in millions of Filipinos. In fact, the GomBurZa execution was attended by 40,000 Filipinos who witnessed and condemned the atrocities of the Spanish Empire. And it was one of the dominoes that eventually led to the Philippine Revolution. Their execution had a tremendous impact on many young Filipinos during this time. And this included the brothers Pasiano and Jose Rizal. Jose Rizal would later dedicate his second novel, El Filibusterismo, in their honor. Rizal's novels in turn helped ignite the revolutionary movement of the Katipunan, the Philippine Revolution that led to the liberation of the Philippines from Spanish colonialism and was instrumental in helping end the global Spanish Empire. In fact, the term GomBurZa was even used as one of the secret passwords of the Katipunan. They were also not the last revolutionary Filipino clergies to stand up and fight for equality and human rights. For example, in February of the year 1900, Father Jose M. Chanco and my own great-granduncle, Father Salustiano Araullo, sailed for Rome to meet with the Pope to personally plead the case of the Filipino clergy to the Vatican itself. But Pope Leo XIII rejected the petition of the Filipino priest. And it was the Vatican's refusal to heed the concerns of the Filipino priests that led to the establishment of the Iglesia Filipina Independiente, or in English, the Philippine Independent Church, which was founded in 1902, led by Bishop Gregorio Aglipay. And through the centuries, the Filipino church sector did not remain passive. Many kept this revolutionary fire burning bright to this day. And the people of the Philippines never forgot what happened to the GomBurZa. From Jose Rizal to Andres Bonifacio, the GomBurZa left a profound impact on countless generations of Filipinos, from the 1800s to the present day. Their combined name, GomBurZa, became a battle cry for those fighting for equality and the recognition of human rights. And this is not to say that there was no strong resistance against Spanish rule before the GomBurZa execution, because there was, hundreds of them. But their brutal execution intensified the movement towards the liberation of the Philippines, a movement to free our people from tyranny, a revolutionary fire that in many ways is still alive and burning bright today. On the eve of their execution, Father Burgos was quoted saying, Get educated. Learn from our elders what they know. See in the museums what the ancient Filipinos really were. Be a Filipino always, but an educated Filipino. And this should not just be limited to our typical classroom education. To me, this means being out there in the community, being out there learning from the people, learning from the experiences of those around us, not just our own, learning from the realities and the conditions of our people, not just in the past, but also in the present. It means learning about their experiences, learning about their struggles and their resistance, not just from the books, but also by being out there in the streets, being out there in the villages, being out there in the communities, being out there, being amongst our people. And if we think about it, if we really learn from the realities and the conditions of our people today, then we'll see that the legacy of the GomBurZa remains alive and relevant today. 149 years later, their struggle remains relevant to millions of Filipinos. And this is because the root causes of many of our problems, from poverty to tyranny, these things still exist. They're still exploiting and oppressing millions of our people. And just like Father Gomez, Father Burgos, and Father Zamora, thousands of innocent people, including people from the church sector, have been persecuted, arrested, detained, or worse, summarily executed by different regimes throughout the past century. So, to learn more about the GomBurZa, about their legacy, and how we can honor them and how we can continue what they stood for, check out the links up here or down below for more resources. And NAFCON USA, in collaboration with partner organizations from the church sector, will also be hosting a special event in their honor. The GomBurZa Legacy, Strengthening Prophetic Unity Amidst Tyranny. This Friday, February 19, 2021 at 6 p.m. Pacific Time. So join us and don't miss out on this opportunity to hear speakers from the Philippines and the United States and learn more about the current situation in the Philippines, about how or why the legacy of the GomBurZa is still very relevant today. And that is it for me today. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, don't forget to like, share this video, comment down below, and subscribe. And special thanks and shout out to all my patrons over at Patreon for your continuing support for this channel. Dakal pong salamat, maraming salamat po. And for those who want to help me make more videos like this, show your support and please be my patron or get a copy of my books or my coloring book or any of the merch linked down below. Maraming salamat po. Dakal pong salamat. See you next time or Tagalog kita kits and in Kapampangan. Mikitix!